All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a look at our next drawing assignment. We're going to be looking at drawing 1.6M, the anchor plate. The M, very importantly, signifies that this is a metric drawing. So wherever you see an M in the assignments, that means that it's a metric drawing. It means that we have to make sure that we set the drawing up properly, especially using the correct template. Okay. AutoCAD is unitless, so we don't draw with the concept of inches and feet and millimeters and all that stuff. That only comes into play when we go to print it or plot it, right? That's where we have to say the 6 units that we drew for the line or the radius of the circle, the 6 units is equivalent to 6 inches or 6 millimeters when we plot it. Okay, but it does affect some other settings. We'll talk about our metric template later when we get to the Module 2 drawings. But for right now, I'll show you what you need to be concerned with when I start the drawing. Okay, so let's just talk real briefly about our objectives for the anchor plate drawing. We're really going to continue to build on the commands that we have now in our toolbox, primarily offset and trim, object snap, that kind of stuff. But we're going to introduce a couple of new commands and options, let's say. So first is the construction line command, a new line command, construction line. And the second is a circle option, circle tan radius, or circle tangent radius, or also known as circle TTR. Okay, so we'll look at both of those in our drawing. This is kind of a short drawing, but it allows us to really focus on some of these techniques, and I'll talk you through it. All right, so getting started here. So first of all, from our start screen, we can use the AutoCAD DWT like we've been using. We could also use the ACAD ISO DWT. So in AutoCAD parlance, ISO stands for International Standards Organization, which is another way to say the rest of the world that uses the metric system. So ACAD ISO is typically for metric drawings. ACAD is for imperial or inch drawings. There's no difference, and really the only difference between these two is just how much they're zoomed in initially. Okay, so I'll show you right here. I'll get started with the ACAD just to show you. So we'll start that, and when we look at our drawing here, the first thing that we notice is the diameter circle here in the middle is a 76. Okay, so let's go and do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay out the center lines. Okay, so that's, we can go about this a couple different ways, but just watch how I'm going to set this up. Because circles are always drawn by their centers, typically, I shouldn't say always, but typically, we're going to lay out the center here. And we're going to do that with the construction line command, right? So we go to the draw menu, and construction line is right there. It's the line with 2 arrows on either end. And what it is it's a line of infinite length. Now, if you're wondering why would I want to draw that, it's just quicker. I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you. So if we wanted to lay this object out, with what I'll call its superstructure or skeletal structure here, these lines here, okay, you can see that these lines, all the circles are going to be located by these lines. So it makes sense to draw these lines first. So if I was using the line command, this is what I would have to draw. I'd have to draw a line from here that is going to be, let's say 50 across. So I'll type in 50. And whoa, look at that. It shoots way off the screen there. Okay, so what's going on? Let me just end the command. So what's going on here? Well, remember that I started with the ACAD template, not ACAD ISO. Okay, so what happened is this template was set up basically zoomed in too far. It was zoomed in for an inch drawing where you're drawing not 50, but 5 for 5 inches, not 50 millimeters, right? Not 50 units, but 5 units. So how do we zoom out? Well, there's a couple things we could do. We could just use the wheel and just keep zooming out. There, I just rolled the wheel, right? We could also do what's called use what's called the zoom command and extents. Now, I haven't talked about the zoom command yet, but basically we're using the zoom command right here in some form. So the zoom command is we can access that by the shortcut key Z. Z as in zebra, or Z as in zoom. Z. All right, so I'm going to type Z and I'm going to hit enter. And then it asks us for an option. And if you look down on the command line, this is where the command line can be helpful. We have a string of options. All center dynamic extents previous scale window object, or in angle brackets real time, which is the default. All right. So remember we talked in the last video that in order to activate one of these options, we have to type the capital letter. So if we look at E for extents, E, what extents does is it zooms, it sets the magnification scale to show you everything that you've drawn in your window. And so that's the line right there. Everything that I've drawn, the line is fit right in the window. It's hard to see because it's right at the edges, but if I click once right or roll the wheel once, then you can see that. Okay, so that's the sum effect of starting this drawing with ACAD instead of ACAD ISO. If you don't believe me, I'll start a new drawing with the ACAD ISO. I'll come over here to draw a line, and I'll go 50. And look at that. Look how small that is. All right. So all it is zoomed out and zoomed in. That's it. Okay. So there's no difference. So so if you feel like you want to start with ACAD, that's fine. If you want to start with ACAD ISO, that's fine. It doesn't matter. So let's go back to this. I'll close this. Let's go back to this. Okay. So what I was trying to show you is why it makes sense to start with construction line. Okay, so what I did is I draw a line that was 50 across, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to draw this, and I'm going to draw 50 down, and I'm going to draw 50 across here, and I'm going to draw up here and just grab hold of this, right? And that's one corner. So now I could offset 50, and I can offset there and there, and I can extend. I hope you're getting the idea that this is kind of nonsense, right? To lay out the skeleton structure for the locations of all of the circles using the line command is more than tedious, okay? It's just nonsense. So this is where construction line fixes that. So let me just erase this. So here's construction line. We go to draw and we go to line or construction line. And I'm going to pick the center point here, wherever you feel like it should be, right there. And now look. So now I can draw a line simply by placing a second point. And it stays in the construction line, so I can now rotate up like this. And then I can hit escape when I'm done. So very easily I can get the center of the center of my object. And now I can offset 50. And I have the whole thing laid out very quickly. All right. This is analogous to the manual drafting technique of laying out your construction lines. All right. That's literally what construction line means. We're laying out our construction lines. Although with AutoCAD, we don't have to draw over, never ever draw over a line. We don't have to draw over the construction line. We just turn it into an object line. Okay. So there we go. That's construction line. All right. Now we want to put the circle in there. So we'll start with the center one, diameter 76, and we're going to go to circle, center diameter, and we choose that, and we go 76. Whoops. All right, so what happened there? I did a zoom extents because I drew my circle and I couldn't see it. I zoomed in here. You might have caught it. What mistake did I make? I offset 5 units instead of 50. Okay, so that's my own mistake. I'll own it, right? So let's go back here and let's fix that. So we offset. We don't want to offset 5. We want to offset 50. My mistake. All right. Okay. So there we go. All right. So now we're back in business. So I got the diameter 76 circle in there. Let's put the circles here. Those are diameter 26. So we'll go to center diameter and 26, right? And remember this. Hit the space bar to bring back the last command, which is circle. Pick the intersection right here, and then hit the space bar to pick the last radius or diameter. Okay, space bar, pick space bar, space bar, pick space bar. All right. So we have our 5 circles laid out pretty quickly. Aside from my goof ups, everything is going well. Let me show you that zoom extents again. So if we do Z space E space, we can zoom in to show us everything that we've drawn. And now we want to figure out how we're going to draw these shapes right here, these arcs right there. We're not going to use arcs, we're going to use circles, but these 4 things right there. And in order to get that started, we have to draw on the arcs around this, which is a diameter 25, 4 times diameter 25. So we'll go back to radius, and we'll pick here and go 25, and then space bar, pick space bar, space bar, pick space bar, space bar, pick with the left mouse button, space bar. All right. Now, to get this arc in here, we're going to use circle, tan, tan, radius. Okay. So we're going to go to, just to make it a little bit more visible, I'm going to go ahead and erase these lines here. You can do the same. I think this will help you see what's going on here. Okay. So now we're going to go circle, and we're going to use the tan, tan, radius. Tangent, tangent, radius. That means we're going to specify 2 tangent points, 2 tangencies, and then give it a radius. The radius in this case is 65, right? We can see that right here. Radius 65. So let's go back to tan, tan, radius. All right, now watch. It says, AutoCAD says specify point on object for first tangent of circle. So we're going to pick right over here. Now notice when we did that, the tangent, it's the deferred tangent object snap came up. Now what happened was it turned off, AutoCAD automatically turns off all the other object snaps and turns on deferred tangent. Deferred in the sense that it doesn't know the exact tangent point until we put in the second tangent point and the radius. So it can't calculate it. So all we need to do is pick in the ballpark. And by ballpark, I mean in the quadrant that the tangency is going to be positioned, which is right about here. So boom, I pick that. It says pick the second tangency. I pick right about there. And then it says give me a radius, and I type in 65. And then there we go. All right. Now, unfortunately, the spacebar, pick spacebar kind of thing won't really work here because circle TTR is not one of those options. So I can do spacebar, and then it says to pick the center of the circle. What I can do is type in TTR, right? And that goes to the tan, tan, radius option, and then I hit enter. And then it says pick that point and pick that point, and then do 65 as the last radius drawn, so it allows that to be a default. All right, so again, space bar, TTR, spacebar, pick, spacebar, or circle TTR, come up here, 1, 2, 65, and then there we go. All right. So the last thing we got to do is clean this up, and we're going to do that with the trim command. So I'm going to go to trim. I'm going to pick everything on the screen by just hitting the enter key of the spacebar. And then I'm just going to trim all the stuff that is not the anchor plate. And then we do zoom extents, Z space, E space, and it zooms in there. Everything looks great. And we can go through our plot procedure to print to a PDF. So we go up to the plotter. We choose, I think we should be able to, let's see, ACAD PDF, a display, no, let's do extents, center to plot, fit the paper, preview it. That looks groovy. Enter, say OK. And let's see where. It never remembers where I'm saving it. 145, summer, and we go. This is 1.6 M. There we go. I probably should have named it first. I didn't name the drawing file. That's why it didn't come up. And then there's my solution. And that's what you will upload to Canvas. All right. So that's it. Good luck. Remember, you might want to, before you jump into the commands, or into the drawing, it might be worth it to, in fact, it probably is worth it to have a little practice. You can do it in the drawing file that you're going to be using. You could do it in a separate drawing file just to practice the construction line, the offset command again, circle, tan, radius. Some of the other stuff that we talked about, like zooming, zoom extents, that's super, super helpful. All right. But that's it for the anchor plate. I will talk to you shortly. Bye.